The importance about PTSD is it's a mixture of the panic attacks, the anxiety and the depression, all bundled up into this great big ball that they've just labelled PTSD. It used to be called shell shock once upon a time. But the reason why a lot of teachers are not teaching anymore, the reason why a lot of policemen aren't policing anymore, the reason why a lot of fire brigade people aren't fire brigading anymore, or the SES isn't out there anymore, is because of PTSD. It's a huge problem, and it's going to get worse until we take care of the basics here, because there are no current medical answers to it. However, when you learn how to let go of the trauma and the effects of the trauma, then you can start to deal with it and you can start to get people back on an even track. So it is something that can be overcome. Thyroid conditions, again, and the other thing with it, the emotionally, thyroid is about often, when is it my turn? So there's a feeling of missing out. There's a feeling of not being able to have the life you want to have. There's also potassium deficiency problems. There's iodine deficiency problems in there. There's a whole range of deficiency problems which also need to be addressed. One of the simplest ways to look at the thyroid, and a lot of people have undisclosed thyroid conditions, is to do what they call a basal temperature test under the arm every morning before you move. And if you want a copy of the sheet where you can do that test, just email me and I'll send it through to you. And you just, when you wake up in the morning, you just put the thermometer under your arm and just see what the temperature is. And if it's lower than what it's supposed to be, then there is a suboptimal thyroid condition going on. And it's a way of tracking it to make sure that you're getting the thyroid back on track. Anxiety. That's also in the paperwork at the back. The anxiety is really caused because people don't know how to handle stress. And people don't know how to handle stress because they were never taught. You know, if your mother and father or school teacher or someone else didn't teach you how to handle stress, how do you know? If your heart goes thumping and you go into this condition, how do you know how to handle that if you were never taught? Because mostly we just make our lives up. We just go along, make our lives up and say, oh, well, I guess this is it. But if you learn how to handle anxiety by breathing, by relaxing, by lowering your brainwave state, you don't have anxiety anymore. I couldn't have stood up here once and talked like I am now, and I didn't even know I had anxiety about it. But often when I'm doing work with people and they want to be a better speaker or they want to be able to stand on stage, we let the anxiety come up and then we deal with it while it's there. Because it has a cause. All anxiety, all depression, all PTSD, all have a cause. Find the cause, release the cause, no more issue. Panic attacks. Heightened anxiety will cause a panic attack. I've had clients who anticipate having a panic attack and they bring it on. Their fear actually brings it on because their fear puts them in stress, which causes a blood sugar imbalance. And that brings on the panic attack. So the panic attack is really just an extension of the anxiety. And if you work through the anxiety that's causing the panic attack, there's no more panic attacks. Because you learn to breathe with it. What happens as a child, if we get anxious, we stop breathing, we hunch up, we tighten up. And when we are anxious about something, we tend to do that, which stops the energy flowing in our body. And we go into fight or flight and panic attack. Kidney disease. One of the major problems for kidney disease is lack of water and lack of the right foods. And the kidneys, of course, need potassium as well. So it's one of the missing minerals for a lot of different things. To be able to get that amount of potassium into your body in the way that your body needs it is really important. The problem that happens with kidney disease is that most people don't recognise it until it's fairly far advanced. But if you regulate, you see, if you're not, don't drink enough water, for instance. Say you're eating a normal diet, what we call a normal diet. You've got carbohydrates, you've got sugars in there, and you've got salts in there. And say you're getting these sugars and salts, and your water intake is only half of what it's supposed to be. Can you imagine that your blood is going to be thicker than what it would be if you were drinking the right amount of water? And that blood has to be filtered by your liver, and it has to pass through the kidneys, because that's what the kidneys do. The thicker the blood, the heavier the blood, the more waste material in the blood, the more damage is done to the kidneys. The more inflammation is going to happen, the more things are going to break down. Depending on how severe it is, it can usually be healed because our body is a self-healing mechanism. Our body knows what to do. We just have to give it the right things. We've got an inner healer. We've got this healing mechanism which is constantly active within us. What we have to do is learn what to give it to work with. Because if it doesn't have the right things to work with, it can't work. Celiac disease. As I say, my partner has celiac. For those who don't know, it's inability to digest glutens. And glutens also affect the lining of the gastrointestinal tract and cause inflammation. So extreme diarrhea, wind, gas, pain, all sorts of different things can result from that. The answer to that is to not eat wheat, barley, oats and rye. And one of the reasons I believe it's on the rise is because wheat has been modified over the last 30, 40 years. And the bacteria in our gut, which used to be able to digest wheat fairly easily, can no longer do so. Because the wheat has become more bacterially resistant. They bred it in there to do that. Wheat which used to be high is now low. Crops which used to be done once a year are now twice a year. So in some parts. So understanding the dynamics of the food we eat is to look at where it's come from and look at what it's lost in its journey. High blood pressure. Water. If this is going through the kidneys, going through the heart, can you imagine that there's going to be extra pressure? There's going to be extra pressure. And you'll get arterial build-up on the walls of the arteries. You'll get more blockages within the heart. You'll get more cholesterol build-up because of the high sugars and salts. The body produces cholesterol, by the way, to help those things move around the body more easily. If it didn't produce cholesterol, we'd die. So there's good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, and there's essential cholesterol. The goal is to know what's right for us.
What about low blood pressure?
Hypoglycemia. Goes hand in hand. And goes hand in hand with these things. So helping to get the blood sugar right will generally help raise the blood pressure. And hoarding. Fear. The things we do that are addictive, we do because it makes us feel better. If somebody's going to take a drug, they do it because they want to feel better. If they felt better in the first place, why would they need a drug? Why would they need cigarettes? Why would they need this? You know, we're with people who smoke and they always come back to, I started when I was 5, 10, 15, 17, 20, 21, because it made me feel better. All of these conditions have a cause, and all of them have a solution. So the importance is to, as we've said before, ask the right questions. If you've got a condition, how's your foundation? How's your water? How's your food? How's your minerals? How's your enzymes? Are there issues from childhood, teenage years, relationship issues, work issues that haven't been dealt with? Because whatever you're holding on to will have an effect on your physical, mental, emotion, and spiritual being. Are there any other questions?
Minerals and enzymes, how do you test this deficiency? Is that just a blood test?
You can do a blood test, and I do use the blood test as well. I use the RBTI analysis because that tells me pretty well if things are in balance or not. And anybody who wants to know about that can just give me a call and I'll talk about it to them. It's more about there are ways to find out. Women need 7 times as, Reams found out that women need 7 times as much calcium as men. And they need it at a time, especially around the menses beginning. They need it through pregnancy, they need it through menopause. And when you get those minerals into the body responds because the nervous system calms down. So everything has a reason for being. I usually, when I'm working with people, I give them minerals and I give them enzymes because those things are the most important things, and I change their diet and we make sure they're drinking the right amount of water. And I work on is it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual? What is it? So some people don't even do that because some people need to clear the spiritual before they do anything with the physical. Because if they don't clear the spiritual, what they're here for, then they're going to sabotage themselves in the physical body. So the importance is to learn how to ask those questions. Thank you for that question. Anyone, any other question? Yes?
How do you determine what's enough in what you need? Like how much calcium is supposed to have, how much potassium?
To start with, myself or another practitioner would determine that for you, based on the case history that you present. As you go along, my wish would be that you would learn how to do that yourself. Do I take this supplement today or that one? Do I eat this today or that one? And for that reason, my partner and I, who's a psychic and a medium, have come up with a program which is about how to tell what your body needs, how to read your own body to know what it needs. And the more you do that, the more you awaken your intuition, the more answers you will get. And those answers are the key to what you do next. So thanks for that question. Anyone else?
So do you do a hair analysis test?
No, I don't. I rely on that more than anything else because I teach it as well. So having the talk. Reams biological theory of ionization. Yes?
Did you mention mineral waters? Are they good?
Sorry?
Mineral waters?
Mineral waters aren't good. Aren't good.
Two things in the same time.
Because of the phosphates in them. So most mineral waters have got phosphate added to give it the sparkle. And they've got an imbalance of minerals in there. Likewise, I'm not a great believer in alkaline water, despite the cost of the machinery. And the reason is that if you're drinking the filtered water, you're at least getting something which is around neutral. If you're putting too much alkalinity into your system can go too alkaline. So our blood has to be kept at a very, very fine margin between 7.35 and 7.45 pH. We can't vary that outside of that because we'll die. So it's just that fine margin that we need. And in order to buffer that blood, the body will pull minerals out of the bone structure in order to buffer that blood, or it will use potassium to do it, or sodium, because those are the things which help to buffer that blood. So we're constantly doing an exchange within our body to make sure that everything runs properly. And our body does that automatically, unless it doesn't have it. So that's where I believe things like osteogenesis, osteoporosis come from. Our body's using up those minerals in order to buffer our blood, rather than being able to digest and absorb the nutrients from outside that our body really needs. So there's a whole range of different health conditions which can be helped by getting these things right. So thank you, everyone. We've come to the end of our time. I would really like to thank you for being here. And you're not on video, by the way. It's just me. So thank you, everyone.